Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you for watching. I am so grateful for all of the love and the support. This week I'm going to be talking about understanding forgiveness. So without further ado, let's jump right in. So let's start off this video by first defining what is forgiveness. So when you look it up on Google, it says to stop being angry or resentful towards someone for an offense, flaw, or mistake. But my definition goes a little bit deeper. I see forgiveness as making an intentional choice to free yourself from the harmful physical or emotional baggage caused by others, environments, or even yourself. I want to emphasize that forgiveness isn't about excusing people. It's not about making amends. It's not about repairing relationships or waiting for apologies. That can sometimes be the outcome or the product of forgiveness, but the forgiveness that I'm talking about here today is about you. It's about you creating the space to process and validate your own experiences so that you can move forward in your life. As we go through this video, I invite you to stay as present as possible and listen with an open heart. My intention is for you to live a life that is full of joy, unburdened by the weight of your past experiences. About 4 years ago, when I first started therapy, I didn't even want to hear the word forgiveness. And I'm being so literal about that. My therapist would send me packets, and every week she would try to get me to read them, have a conversation about it, talk about it, and I was just having none of it. At the time, I was going through a really traumatic event that ended up resurfacing all of my trauma and all of the anger that tied right into it. It made it literally impossible for me to sit and try to consider forgiveness. My perception of forgiveness at the time was simply just letting it go, and I wanted to see the people who hurt me suffer for their sins. And so, needless to say, I wasn't the perfect candidate for learning how to forgive. And when my life was calling for me to learn the baby steps to read a little packet, I was just completely shut down to the idea of it. I really want to emphasize this part because I don't want anyone thinking that I was just born into this mindset. Like, I definitely wasn't. It's been a journey, a journey, a journey. And so I just want you to know that no matter where you are in your life, you can always choose different. Okay, so back to the plot. Here I am on my anti-forgiveness rampage, and one day I decide to sit down. I'm just like scrolling through Netflix, and I come across this movie called The Shack. I will have this movie linked down below. There's a free version on YouTube of it, and I think that everybody should watch this movie. So the basic outline of the movie is around a man whose daughter is murdered in a horrific way, and he becomes so trapped in grief that he becomes figuratively paralyzed by that moment in time. After getting into a car accident, he falls unconscious and begins embarking on a journey with the universe slash God. Together, they begin to explore and apply the concept of forgiveness. Towards the end of the movie, the universe asks Mac, the main character, to forgive the murderer. And Mac, so filled with guilt, anger, and rage and grief, obviously struggles with the idea of this. And the dialogue that they have completely changed my whole perception on what I thought forgiveness was. So now I'm going to read you guys the script from this conversation so that we can both be on the same page. The universe says, I'm asking you to do what's right and to understand what's best. Forgiveness doesn't establish a relationship. It's about letting go of his throat. The pain inside you is devouring you, robbing you of joy, and crippling your capacity to love. You're not stuck because you can't. You're stuck because you won't. Mac replies, I don't know how. To which the universe responds, just say it out loud. Struggling and resistant, Mac takes a moment before he finally mutters, I forgive you, and then adds, I'm still angry. The universe looks at him and says, of course you are. No one lets go all at once. You might have to do it 1,000 times before it gets any easier, but it will. The journey in this movie, especially this scene, completely changed my perception of forgiveness. I had always seen forgiveness as absolving the other party of their actions, but now I was seeing that forgiveness could be a way of freeing myself from constantly reliving the pain of those actions. Forgiveness is about freeing yourself, about moving beyond those experiences that have caused you trauma. It's about no longer being emotionally paralyzed or energetically stuck in those moments of time. When the universe tells Mac that forgiveness isn't about establishing a relationship, it's about letting go of his throat, it underscores that forgiveness, it's about freeing yourself from the grip that resentment, anger, grief, hurt, pain can have on you. Holding on to anger and pain can feel protective, but in reality, it's corrosive, devouring your inner peace, stealing moments of joy, limiting your ability to fully experience love, and not just towards others, but towards yourself. By letting go, you're not excusing the actions. You are reclaiming your life and your emotional freedom. Another thing that I want to touch on when the universe says to Mac that forgiveness doesn't establish a relationship, growing up in a family where preserving relationships often took priority over integrity and acknowledgement of the real dynamics, I learned firsthand the pressures of just brushing things under the rug instead of honoring boundaries. And forgiveness in this context isn't about reconciling, it's about releasing yourself from that cycle. I want to emphasize that with forgiveness, you have full autonomy over what and who is allowed in your life. Forgiving a person doesn't mean that you are required to continue the relationship. Like the universe says to Mac, it's about you letting go of his throat. What I take away from the universe saying this to Mac is that even if throughout your life you were placed on the short end of the stick in the most profound and painful ways, you risk losing nothing by acknowledging that those things didn't deserve to happen to you. But if you allow these experiences to consume you, you risk losing everything: your peace, your joy, your ability to move forward. And as the universe says to Mac, I'm asking you to do what's right and to know what's best. This reminds us that forgiveness isn't about the other person or the situation. It's truly about what is best for our own well-being and our growth. Sometimes what's right and best for us is letting go so we can live with freedom rather than the weight of past hurts. This is probably the hardest pill to swallow when moving through the different waves of forgiveness, and I know that it is still for me. Like, let's be real. Sometimes it's easier to hate someone than to be like, you know what? You didn't know better. So I can move over with my life. You don't know how to treat people. And unfortunately, I was on the receiving end of that. That has nothing to do with me. It's not easy to get there. It's not easy to get there at all. And I know that. I know that. And so I just wanted to say that because I know that sometimes we don't understand why things happen. And it's just that you'll never know. But sometimes we understand all too well why things happen. And we think because we can empathize with the thinking patterns, with the logistics of the situation, that we can somehow change that with love, change the reality of it, and mold fate into our own hands. But we can't, and we won't ever be able to do that. I'm not God. You're not God. All of that is higher than us. And so I know that there are people out there who are deeply empathetic and can acknowledge the patterns and behaviors and still leave themselves vulnerable to it simply because you can understand it. But you don't have to do that. That is also a choice. I also want to emphasize that forgiveness has nothing to do with being a better person or acting according to some religious or spiritual stereotype. And I want you to think about it in the context of this image. I know we've all seen this. It's gone around us in cycles. If what you are holding on to is the pain of your experiences to the point where it's robbing you of joy, crippling your capacity to love, and devouring you, then knowing what's best and doing what's right is simply releasing your grip on the rope. It's not about reaching the state of nirvana because some spiritual text told you to forgive thy neighbor, or because you think that you forgiving someone is going to put you in higher favor with your God gods, or universe. Releasing your grip is about creating space between the emotional intensity of your past experiences and your present moment. It's not about erasing what happened. It's about loosening the hold that intense emotional experiences and memories have over you, allowing your body and mind to realize that these experiences that have happened to you aren't happening in this present moment. And if there are still variations or cycles that are replaying in your present moment that remind you of past experiences, it's even more important for you to create this space so that you can acknowledge the cycle, understand why it's happening again, and be able to break it. By creating this space, you're giving yourself the ability to approach life from a place of clarity and peace than reacting from a place of raw pain. It's the difference between living in the story of what happened and allowing yourself to step into who you are now. Even if you don't know who that is, give yourself the chance to learn, to create who you are, to create who you can be from a place of healing rather than the results of past experiences that you had no control of. So if you're wondering how to let go of that rope, remember that forgiveness is a journey and it doesn't happen all at once. Take it day by day, moment by moment. Forgiveness today can look like crying and feeling. Forgiveness today can look like you going to book a session at a rage room, go and break shit to get all that anger out. Forgiveness today can look like you writing a letter expressing exactly how you feel and ripping it up. Forgiveness can look like you finding a therapist so that you don't feel like you have to resolve the complexity of what you have been through all by yourself. Forgiveness isn't a one-time act. It's a continuous choice to free yourself and to create space for joy and growth. It honestly reminds me of the different phases of grief. It's non-linear, constantly evolving and shifting day by day. And I think that it's important to acknowledge that there may be things that, we don't fully heal from. And I know that there are some experiences that I feel that way about, but over time, my relationship to those experiences have changed enough for me to sit here, be able to talk to you about it, live my purpose, and the only thing that could have stopped me from doing that was me. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for trusting me and for allowing me to tell you guys my truth and being an audience to that. I hope this brings you the peace and clarity that you need to move forward in your life. I love you. You are loved. You got this. Life is crazy sometimes, but it's okay. That's why I'm here for you. Without further ado, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.